Alright, let's dive into something that's been on my mind lately: civility in sports and media. And who better to spark this conversation than Sam Acho, former NFL player turned ESPN analyst. But here's the thing, this isn't just about sports. It's about how we, as a society, handle disagreement, power, and responsibility. So, let's break it down. First off, Sam Acho's take on civility in sports is fascinating. He compares it to the dynamics of a football team. Disagreements are inevitable, but the goal is the same: to win. Personally, I think this is a brilliant analogy. What many people don't realize is that sports are a microcosm of society. You've got different personalities, strategies, and egos all colliding, yet somehow, they manage to work together. If you take a step back and think about it, this is exactly what we're missing in broader societal discourse. We're so focused on winning the argument that we forget we're on the same team, Team Humanity. Now, let's talk about the locker room. Acho mentions that political conversations weren't off limits in the NFL. From debates about track versus golf to discussions on Kaepernick's kneeling, these guys were talking about everything. But here's what's really interesting: even when things got heated, they didn't walk away. Why? Because they had to see each other the next day at practice, at lunch, at meetings. This raises a deeper question: what if we treated our online and offline interactions like a locker room? Would we be more accountable if we knew we'd have to face the person we're arguing with tomorrow? One thing that immediately stands out is Acho's emphasis on the platform athletes have. He's not just talking about speaking up, he's talking about stewarding that platform responsibly. In my opinion, this is where a lot of public figures go wrong. They see their platform as a megaphone for their opinions, not as a tool for education and dialogue. What this really suggests is that influence isn't just about reach, it's about responsibility. And that's a lesson we could all take to heart. Now, let's get into the risk factor. Acho says, everything comes with risk, but it's not about avoiding risk, it's about how you respond to it. This is such a crucial point. We live in a culture where playing it safe is often the default, especially for public figures. But if you ask me, that's how we end up with shallow conversations and no real progress. What makes this really interesting is that Acho isn't just advocating for speaking up, he's advocating for doing so with an educated perspective. It's not about shouting the loudest, it's about saying something that matters. Here's a detail I find fascinating: Acho's mention of Sophie Cunningham and her use of her platform. He doesn't dive into specifics, but his point is clear: athletes shouldn't shy away from using their voice. From my perspective, this is where the line between athlete and activist blurs, and that's not a bad thing. Athletes are human beings first, and their voices carry weight. But the key is stewardship, using that voice wisely, not just loudly. Finally, let's talk about sports media. Acho calls out figures like Pat McAfee, reminding us that their platforms aren't just for entertainment, they're for influence. Personally, I think this is where the media often falls short. We're so focused on clicks and views that we forget the impact our words can have. Acho's example of the Texas versus Georgia game is a perfect illustration. Fans throwing bottles to delay the game? That's not just bad sportsmanship, it's a failure of accountability. And the fact that the referees changed the call doesn't make it right. If you take a step back and think about it, this is a metaphor for how we handle mistakes in society. We're so quick to justify our actions that we forget to ask, did we actually win anything? So, here's my closing thought: civility isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about how we navigate it. Whether you're an athlete, a media figure, or just someone scrolling through Twitter, you have a platform. The question is, how are you stewarding it? Are you using it to divide, or are you using it to build something better? Personally, I think that's the real game we should all be playing. What do you think?